All right, Sassy Gamers, this is Phoenix Nova behind the camera here at PAX West 2023, and I have with me Andy from Bad Zombie Games. So Andy, tell us a little bit about this game that you have here.
So we just released it in July. It's called Castaway Station. It is a roguelike deck builder survival game set in outer space. The UN Kobayashi, you might recognize the name of that, blows up in space, and all of the survivors that actually can make it land on the planet, and the first one down creates Castaway Station. The goal of the game is you work through a number of different missions in order to find other characters that you can be working with. It's a little bit like Slay the Spire, but with a much broader narrative. It starts off on a planet. You just have one character. You find two characters here. The way the gameplay works is you have each character has their own set of cards, and there's a middle deck that is tied to the story, and it's also tied to the location that you're at and the weather.
That was one interesting thing that I saw when I first played this the other day, was that middle deck. Like you said, it's situationally and environmentally based. It's not part of your player deck.
Correct. Yeah. So either player can play one of the cards in there. You can also play cards that are teamwork cards. For example, these are teamwork cards here. You can play one from your partner side, so you can get some radical things going on. So for example, this one, if I play it from my second character's deck, I replace all of the cards in my first character's deck, basically with 0 action point cards. And that allows me to go back over here and play some cards for free from my other character's deck.
Nice.
So you have some nice combinations back and forth, some doubling. You can get some real recursive power moves going on in the thing.
Now, my understanding for the player deck is that this is a deck building game.
Yeah.
And has some of the familiar mechanics that we're used to, that after encounters, you're able to get new cards, and my understanding is we'll even be able to make cards, and you can show that in a little bit.
Yep.
But one of the things that people that play deck builders will be familiar with is that you start with some low power base cards that eventually you kind of want to get rid of so that your higher power cards come up more often.
Yeah.
And you had a very interesting purge mechanic.
Yeah. So the purge mechanic, so to speak, is basically you have these charges on the card. You have 4 charges per card. When you deplete all of the charges, the card goes away forever. The last time you play the card, it plays double. So in this case, these are cards from the other player's deck. I'll get over there in a second. And I know you'll probably get that out, right?
So I find that interesting because to exhaust a card, and so that you never see it come again, you have to play the card. You actually have to keep using it.
Yeah, and what's funny about that is if you do that early on in the game, you get rid of those low-end cards really early on in the game. And of course, every encounter you have, you get new cards as part of the rewards. If you try to save them, and some people do try to save the cards so they don't exhaust them completely, now at the end of the game, you've got a lot of cards, but a lot of them only have 1 or 2 charges.
Yeah, because like you were just saying, you have to recharge your cards if you want to save them from being purged.
Yeah.
So that's a mechanic that it creates essentially an economy.
It's actually an economy, yeah. There's a whole depletion mechanic going on in there. You have to balance the money, the currency that you get between recharging cards, replenishing single-use items, upgrading gear. The mechanic for creating cards, which I'll show you, is a different set of currency in that. The other thing that's interesting in this is a lot of the games have gear. These don't give you permanent abilities while you're carrying the gear. They give you cards. So they give you access to advanced cards that you otherwise don't get. But again, those cards can be depleted once you have them. And the gear has different sets of cards for every single player because each player has different kinds of capabilities. So for example, this player is much more of a tank and aggressor. So a lot of the gear that he carries has attack cards. She's much more of a teamwork kind of character. So most of the gear associates with teamwork cards for her.
Yeah. And I also noticed on the screen that the enemies show you what they're going to be doing coming up, whether they're going to buff themselves, debuff you, or attack you. And because there's very much attacks back and forth. But there was something that, like, on top of the purge mechanic, the other thing that kind of really interests me, pretty much almost blew my mind, is the objective is not to destroy everything you come across. The objective is to survive.
Yep. And so the narrative drives the mechanics of the whole game, really, and that's why they exist as they do. So you'll see the monsters, as typical, they can have block and they can have health, and it's a lot of health, but these things are going to do major damage. So your goal here is to either evade or escape, and both of those give you the same capabilities of winning the encounter as beating the enemies. And there are enemies in this game that you really can't beat. There are endless waves of some of these pack monsters, so you really have to find the ways to escape.
Yeah, and I saw that there were a lot of cards that had different type of escape mechanics on it. Yep. And kind of touching upon a couple of things that we said before about the player deck versus the environmental deck, exhaustion of your cards, that, you know, each time you use them is another level towards exhaustion. And this escape mechanic, what I thought was really useful one time was I was able to save my cards, not use my cards at all. Yep. And I used 2 of the environment cards that allowed me to escape like really early in a round and progress. And I barely had to fight these guys and not burn my cards.
And that's a smart player, because you want to maintain your cards if you can. But the other thing is, a lot of times so the middle deck is the only place you get escape cards. It depends on the encounter. A lot of times what you have to do is evade enough and delay getting hit so that you can get one of the escape cards to pop for you. If you're just whacking away and you're getting low on health, by the time you escape, you may not have enough health for the next encounter.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how I started playing the game that way, where I was attacking, and then through the help of your lovely assistant that was like teaching me about it, understood the escape mechanic and it was completely game changing.
Yeah.
It changes your strategy completely once you understand it.
There's a lot of slash and hack games out there, and they're pretty kind of formulaic, and this one makes you think a little bit more. And again, if you're really on a planet, why do you need to kill a monster if you can escape? If you got what you need, it's better to live for another day, right?
Especially when you're on a planet, there's an endless number of them and only 1 or 2 of you.
And you don't have a lot of equipment. You have to find the equipment. You have to find all the things to survive.
So speaking about equipment, this is one of the things that you touched upon, was the concept of creating your own cards.
Yep.
Can you show us that?
So this is called a synthesizer. Each character has the ability to create cards. They have some common attributes and some different attributes for each character based on their abilities. So you get 7 synthesizer points. You use 1 rare metal to do it. And now you can go to town doing anything you want in terms of the card mechanics. So you can have a 0-based card. I still have 3 synthesizer points left, so I could get a 15 attack card for 0 points. I can also swap it over to defense if I wanted. And instead of doing that, let's do I'm going to do 2 evade. And I still have 4 points left. And so we're going to also weaken the enemy and slow down the enemy and make it. So for 0, so these are pretty powerful cards. For 0, I get 2 evade. I can slow and weaken the enemy. And it works really well. One of the things about this is these are hardened cards. Hardened means that they don't use charges. They exhaust in a round, but you get to keep them forever. So one of the things I like to do, for example, with she works really well with strength mechanics. So I have cards where I can do strength mechanic, get 3 strength, which is really awesome, and then bump up a little bit of damage. I'll have 4 or 5 of these cards in my deck, and I can get her to 15, 20 strength pretty quickly. There are partners I can partner her with, like Nichelle, and Nichelle can double her strength. So right away, you can get a huge multiplier going into a game if you make your cards creatively.
Nice. I also noticed that you can name your cards yourself.
You can name the cards. You can also... Really cool. You can also name the monsters in the game. So let's call this one, and I'll show you a quick little thing here that's also fun. So you have a bestiary, like anybody on a planet where you have to learn to survive. You have to figure out what the flora and the fauna look like. So you keep track of the different critters in here. And you get to name them whatever you want. And yeah, there's some really fun names in there. I'll probably keep it safe here. but the bestiary gives you some hints on how to defeat these. There are some tricky monsters in here, which if you're not really paying attention, can wipe you out pretty quickly. So bestiary is a good thing, and it's also fun. You get to name them what you like.
Cool. So Andy, go ahead and go back to where we were fighting.
Okay.
And then let's show some of the cards that show the things like the escape mechanic.
Okay.
And a couple of things like that. So what I'll do is, like, when we're talking about that, I'll be able to sub in that part of the video showing those cards.
Got it. Okay, cool. Let me...
I think your video is the one I'm going to be doing the most editing on.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. It's not that difficult. If anything, the fact that I'm talking about it means it'll be easier to find it, because with DaVinci Resolve, what it does is it transcribes the speech to text, and then I can edit the video based on the text.
Okay, got it. Okay.
So I can find what I need.
Oh, so you can do a text search.
Yeah. Well, not only can I do a text search, but I could, like, if like all this that we're talking about here, I'll be able to select all this dialogue, and I'll just be able to hit delete, and it'll delete it out of the video.
No way. That's awesome.
Yeah. The text-based editing is amazing.
Sorry. Okay. So need to enable that. Shoot, that's the one I wanted to get to. All right.
It's all the
There we go. Okay.
scenes footage of, like, the
right.
panel.
All right. So you're not going to, so the thing about this particular mission is you're not going to see a lot of diverse monsters in it.
That's fine.
But you'll see the escape mechanics.
That's what I want to be able to show the cards.
Okay. Yeah.
So that when we're talking about the escape card from the middle deck and everything, that
Okay.
you'll be able to see that.
Okay. So it may take a little while to get there, but you'll see it.
No worries. And once we get there, we'll just, like, hold on the card, and then that way I'll have the video. Yeah. And feel free to throw up a couple other cards, like what an attack card looks like, or a buff card. Okay, yeah. Very typical battle here.
Okay, so with this particular mission, you're going to get endless waves of these pack monsters, and the goal is you got to lead them off the cliff. So you got to escape these encounters.
You got to lemming them.
Yeah, you got to lemming them, and this gives you a little bit of a hint if you're paying attention to it. So here's one right away. So this is an escape card. I got lucky, and I got it on the first hand. I got two of them actually. So when I do this, it will automatically let me escape this particular encounter. And that's not a bad thing. I get rewards just as if I had actually beaten the monsters in that case. So
the goal isn't to beat the monsters. The goal is to escape.
The goal is to survive. And the way you survive is building up what you got. So yeah, so now when I go into the next one, I'm going to have the same thing here. We'll see if I get lucky again or not. So again, you have no control over the middle deck. And I'm in a different place now. It's raining. I might get some atmospheric effects. So for example, here's a good atmospheric effect. It's raining. We lose action points because of that. I don't have any ability to escape this round, and the monsters are all going to hit me. So I'm going to have to at least try to protect myself. So I'm going to evade for the first character, and I'm going to let him wipe him out. And what you're going to see here is, you think you're done? Nope. You got more of them. They'll just keep coming all day long. But I do get more in here. So damp clothes, that slows me down a little bit. Let's see what I'm going to do here. I'm going to bide my time until I can lead him off the cliff. So this is going to give me an evade and some other things. Let's see. 0 action point cards are always really useful. And
especially when you're slowed.
Yeah. So in that case, these things had slowed me, so neither one of those evades is going to work for me. So I'm going to get hit unless I somehow get rid of these guys. But I'm going to play that. And I'm going to use a teamwork card now that's going to give me 2 action points because it's the last charge. So it plays double. And now I can do a little bit more damage to the enemies. And notice one thing, if I pick him off down to 1, I can just play the waiting game until I get an escape card, keeping 1 at low health. I don't actually have to hurt it.
Right.
So
Which is advantageous because you don't got 3 healthy ones that are attacking you.
yeah, and you want to be smart about how you do it. So this is the card I just created. I have strength already, so I'm going to wipe out one of these guys with it. And then let's see, we'll just end it there. We're going to wait and see if we get a escape card coming into the next one. But now I only have one here, so if I had killed him, I'd have a whole new wave. And if I'm very low on health and points and a new wave comes in, I don't know who they're going to attack. They might attack one of my characters and kill them off. So let's see. Well, I can hide from that one, but I don't have an escape card yet. So I'm going to play a really nice rare card here. And again, I think I'm just going to evade until the next round and see if I get an escape card. The first encounter, I got one right off the bat. That was easy. This one is going to make me, live a little bit until I can get one. There we go. So now I got my escape card, and I escaped the second encounter. I've got one more coming up. So again, you want to live to be able to get to the next thing, because part of the goal of this mission is there's a pod here, and in that pod is your third character. If you die before you get here, you're only going to end up with 2 characters. So what you want to do is make it to the pod, get in the shell as a new character, get the hell out of Dodge, and then move on.
Cool. Okay, Andy, that was a really interesting look at Castaway Station, but more importantly, how can people find it or find more about Bad Zombie Games?
All right, so if you go to Steam, it's on Steam. It's on iOS, it's on Steam Deck, and it'll very soon be in the Epic Store, badzombigames.com and castawaystation.com. What we're working on now is a DLC. We came out with the game in 4 months in July, came up with an update last week. It took us about 2 weeks to build that. The DLC will take us about 3 months to do, so look for that somewhere in the new year.
Very cool, very cool. Okay, Andy, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
And you have a great rest of your PAX.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.